Hello again, this is Stephen Dupree of NowEnergetics.com based on YUEN Method, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about allergies. So it's about that time of year, it's March, and there are a lot of folks that are looking at the allergy season, allergies coming. So I wanted to give people some background on sort of the philosophy that YUEN Method has about allergies and go through an article that I've written. Dr. YUEN has also published, I believe, a PDF on allergies some time ago, probably 10 years ago. Not much has, I don't think, changed since then, but sometimes you can find that online. I believe it was a free download. But I'll go through some of it here. I've done a bit with allergies myself. I used to have a website called DeleteMyAllergy.com, and I let that site kind of lapse because in a way, we don't want to treat allergies any different than any other issue that we may have. You know, it's a story that we need to find. It's using strong and weak, all the elements of the YUEN method, it's profiling. And, you know, what we're really trying to do with this is trying to get the right story. And people will believe it's some kind of substance, and sometimes there's a substance related to it, but it's usually a non-physical type of thing. So that's the sort of overarching theme with allergies and YUEN method, is we don't often find the physical being the major culprit, even though that's what we think it is. So let's go through this article and see how far down the road we can get with kind of giving you some maybe different insights about allergies from the energy standpoint versus, you know, conventional or even some alternative methods that use various techniques. So so there's a lot of information on the web and in alternative areas about allergies and things. And what we notice is that, you know, it seems like this has been going on a long time, and it seems like humanity should have solved this problem by now. And yet we haven't really gotten any closer to a solution. We have a lot of these different kind of methods of suppressing things and so on. But we really haven't, you know, in a sense, gotten to the root causes of some of these things, even though we think we have. So we even create new allergies. You know, the adult onset allergies is the newest one. Is that, well, you're not going to be allergic to this until you get to your 40 years old, and then suddenly you're allergic to it. So there's quite a sort of this mindset, this mental thinking that, you know, you kind of internalize the message is sooner or later they're going to get you, right? You got no allergies now, eventually it's going to get you. So so we need to, you know, clear some of that indoctrination, because you know, that's just not true in our case. So one of the issues that I see a lot in the Western culture, we don't see it so much in the Eastern cultures, and I can speak from experience there about allergies. There's a lot of indoctrination and complexity around allergies. There's a lot written about it there, you know, how to detect it and so on. And then there's just the things that we see in our everyday life with folks that allergic symptoms and so on, whether it be, you know, dust or allergens or springtime, that sort of thing. So one of the things that's very a striking principle that Dr. YUEN found, you know, so many years ago when he wrote that article, was there really he could find no physical causes of allergies. It's not to say that the physical isn't the trigger, but it's not the actual physical substance that's the cause of the allergy. So that's a really important principle to note, at least when you're working with YUEN method. If you're working with some other method that you think does a better job at this, that's fine. I haven't found one, but you know, people are entitled to their opinions. So in the alternative wellness field, we also have that, you know, we have folks that work with folks with allergies and give them, you know, different types of methods and treatments, and yet they have their own allergies, you know, that sort of thing. So so, you know, if you get to the right answer, if you have the right principle, you should be able to clear any allergy in any time, right? That's the whole point of it. So with YUEN method, we talk about allergy elimination, and we really need to just get to the right story, because it's the story that's triggering the person. The substance is there too, but it's the substance related to the story. And what we really need to do is, it's, you know, it's another issue of getting to the story that's weak. So, and when we get to the right answer, when we get to the right story, we're going to strengthen that on the spot. So that's what we want to do for the individual. So we always want to focus on the individual. The problem with a lot of the holistic world and alternative world is there's still a lot of cookie cutter kind of techniques that are no different than having the conventional cookie cutter techniques, right? So we're saying that we have a different way of looking at it, and we're looking only at the energy, and we're looking really for the story. And the story that goes weak is really what's going to give us the answer and bring some immediate benefit. So what I talk about here, a little bit about the conventional methods, and people have a lot of mental blocks because of sort of what we've read about and the information about allergies for 100 years now is, we have, some amount of indoctrination about what allergies are, what you can do about them. The fact that most people will never get rid of their allergies, they'll need to always swallow something to get rid of a symptom, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of kind of mental thinking, mental blocks around, what an allergy is, and it makes it harder to resolve it, right? So we want to first delete all that conventional thinking about allergies right off the bat, right? So we don't want to, a lot of the information out there just creates a lot of discouraging, demoralizing energy. And if you get discouraged and demoralized enough, that'll make you cry even if you don't have an allergy, right? So you got to be aware that a lot of these things that we talk about with allergies are about negative thoughts and experiences that create these, most of the symptoms, let's say the real basic stuff and not life-threatening, but sort of the sneezing, the watery eyes. It's kind of a grieving, crying kind of symptom when you think about it a little, one layer deeper and look at it very, I won't say logically, but even intuitively, that seems to be where it's coming from. So a lot of that energy that we get from experts and information in general just it creates a cumulative effect to us that even makes the allergy sometimes even stronger because it reinforces, our symptoms. So, but ultimately they're not the right answer, because none of those answers that we have, actually energetically check out as a weakness. So we mostly discount, let's say 100% of the conventional and most of the alternative too, because most of that really isn't dealing with the underlying issue. It's more suppressing it, and anytime you suppress it, it's going to express itself in a more severe way. You're going to have, just going to create more triggers. So we don't want more sensitivity by suppressing something and having it pop up sometime later. So we want to deal with the problem and the story straight up. So so right here, central nervous system becomes confused and we struggle with breathing, and the breathing is due to the reactions of emotions causing it. And we think we have difficulty breathing due to allergies. So you can imagine a situation where you're so distraught that you're emotional and crying and things like that. You have a similar symptom when you think about it, right? When you have those kind of reactions to even normal situations in your life, just a sad experience or something like that. So that's kind of the crux of it. So, and I talk a little bit here about, things that we've collected over time, the limits of alternative wellness methods in general. Not a whole lot different than the conventional. You're going to avoid it, instead of using some conventional rules or tools. You're going to get rid of all the allergens in your house because, folks, even on the alternative side, everything's an allergen. There's something wrong with the rug, there's something wrong with the ceiling, there's something wrong with the paint. It's every possible thing is an allergen. And if it could actually be, if that's a trigger and that's what goes weak, if that's a story, and so we don't ever discount that, but most of the time there's some other story behind it that has not, has a very, very loose correlation to the substance, right? It's not a physical thing at that point, it's a reaction. So that's important to note. So all these different ways of avoiding, you buy some other product, a special kind of pillowcase, you get rid of gluten, use HEPA filters, and and we read a lot of information that says we should be bothered by things. So a lot of this just kind of loads the gun, loads the trigger, to have us react to something, have an emotional reaction to something, right? So that's all part of the conditioning, right? So it's good. It's important to know that we need to delete a lot of that programming, a lot of that conditioning as part of resolving some of the effects of allergies. A lot of it is information effect, collective information effect, especially in the Western, societies. So, and the important thing is we don't want to. Most of what we do with allergies right now is we live with it, right? We never really resolve it, and so the alternative and even the conventional methods is really not getting rid of the problem. It's really trying to live with the problem. So we want a better solution than that, for allergies. So so there are people that don't have any allergies. So what are they doing right? So instead of looking at, look at it kind of, you can look at it intuitively, you can even look at it logically. There are whole, groups of people that don't have any allergies at all. So what's their, and they're eating all kinds of crazy foods and everything else. So it's not like, and they have cats and dogs and go out in dusty places and all kinds of things, and they don't have allergies. So what's different with them? So, and what we find is generally they don't have a story to trigger. They don't have any energy that's suppressing or avoiding anything, and they don't have anything that's being triggered. They don't have any stories in their energy. And all of this is about basically trying to figure out the story that exists in their energy, the imprint in their energy. And the imprint may be their imprint, and it could be imprint from their ancestors. More than likely, they have some kind of energetic past life energy. Could be their ancestors. Very, very common to have ancestor energy, and there's a lot of energy related to avoiding things, and that can pile on to the allergic reaction as well. If you have a lot of energetic weakness to avoiding things, and you have all this energy around allergies, you're always trying to avoid things. So it actually makes the situation worse if you have the compound. You have a story, but you also have the compound weakness of avoiding being on its own part, a weakness that you need to resolve. And then you combine that with allergies, which is all about avoiding things too. It's like a double whammy. So a lot of times we have to deal with other elements that go weak related just to avoiding things in general. It may trigger a larger effect of avoiding that could be worse than what we consider the original substance that has the that gives the person a symptom, let's say, or triggers something for them, triggers an emotional reaction for them. So I go over here a little bit about where do allergies come from. If I find the PDF, I may link it in here because I'm almost sure that this was an allergy ebook that was free. I think it was a download. I want to make sure with Dr. YUEN that it was free, so I don't want to just give it out until I'm aware of it. And he probably, it's fairly old, but it has no real new information to a certain extent. It's something he wrote about 10 or 15 years ago, and I think it still applies today. There is a triad that we talk about for clearing, and it's sensations, emotions, reactions. It's called something different now in the modern day age, but I used to call this, and I think Dr. YUEN had mentioned at one time that this is sort of the allergy triad. So you have sensations, you have emotions, and your reactions, and you want to kind of lasso up and delete the effects of that triad related to a particular story. And that's what's going to do the most to clear all the combinations of those three elements and the reactions that a person may get from a particular triggering physical substance, as an example, right? So we'll just read through this here. YUEN method makes a stand there are no physical causes of allergies. They're merely emotional reactions to triggers, issues, and choices. That's the life problems triad. So even when we look back through time for a story, it's an issue, trigger, or choice. That's a life problem, right? That's the life problems triad. That may be comprised of physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual influences, memories, imprints, residuals, sentiments, what you call sentiments, of negative emotions and experiences that we unknowingly carry that may trigger these reactions and cause us to live a life that is distorted with allergies, pain, and unnecessary disease. So emotional triggers such as suppressed grief, sadness, sorrow, depression, and tears all initiate allergic reactions. So think about that. It's not about the substance per se, it's what it's triggering. And it's not the triggering substance, it's triggering something else that's more non-physical, right? So we need to get a handle on that story, and the story that is linked to that substance is what is creating the sadness, sorrow, depression, tears, and all these other things that we call allergic reactions, okay? So allergies signify initial emotional reactions to various physical substances. It is these emotions that trigger secondary physical reactions, not the biochemical substances of the allergy. In other words, he's saying it's not the physical. It's a trigger, but it's not the physical. You know, you're triggering some kind of story that is triggering all these emotions, right? And you want to delete the story. So I have another article that I may go over, and let's see if I can find it here. I think I'm really surprised it's not here, but I have an example that I go through with allergies. And let's see if I can find it if I have a few minutes here. Yeah, I'm really surprised it's not here. It must be, it's not painting here for some reason. But we go through a particular session with someone, and in that session, there are 2 or 3 different allergies that the person has. One of them is a very common one. I'll just talk through it here. One of the more common ones is something to do with people that are allergic to fur or dust or something like that. And if you intuitively look at that, whether it be a cat or a dog or some, you know, or some other issue with dust, there's usually, you know, you want to find the story, and it's usually specific to the individual. There's some real basic stories that people have that come up in their energy. And many times it's past life experiences of their ancestors or their own experience with animals. And there's a kind of grieving over how they treated animals, you know, and the fur becomes a triggering mechanism to remember the story of what they did, that they a negative experience that they're, you know, a person may be sorry they did that. You know, let's say that you have a story of either killing animals for their fur or killing animals to eat them many years ago. Of course, nowadays most of the domesticated animals are pets, but back in the day there, you may have needed to kill animals to survive. So a lot of that, if you look at the here and now, would be, you know, sort of energy that regret kind of energy, sadness kind of energy, you know, those kind of emotions, which elicit the kind of symptoms that you see when people have allergies to kittens and cats and things like that, dog fur. It's watery eyes, it's sneezing, it's crying, it's, you know, it's a lot of congestion, things like that. Something that you would have if you had a really good, deep, long cry about something, some sadness that you had. So what we do is, in that case, is we delete the story. You know, we ferret out, we intuit the story, and then we delete that story. You know, and we may use numerical profiling. We may say, you know, somebody because you were a different nationality and they don't take that particular animal as a pet, that, you know, it's more of a food source, so that, you know, you may have been in a culture, or an ancestor had been in a culture that, you know, they ate those animals, you know, 300, 400, 500 years ago. So you may need to use profiling and find that story. And then you want to just, you can relay that story and sometimes to the person, and then just, you know, clear that story, delete the cumulative effects of that, all the way down through their quantum. And you know, if it's an ancestor, you're deleting the ancestor energy, and the ancestor energy is being given to you sort of to resolve. So you actually get a reaction. It's not your issue, so to speak, but it could be your own energy back from the past as well. And then you just ask the person, you know, what are you noticing? Especially if they're in the middle of the symptom, it's going to be very clear if you've hit the button, whether they've whether they've improved or not. So that's a really a good, good thing to be in the moment with, if someone's right in a symptom at that moment. And the other thing is, if someone's having a severe reaction, what they consider an allergy, if you're not sure what to do, if you're not sure, where to go with intuiting, you can sometimes just apply the triad and delete the reaction. So right on the spot there, just put a thought on their midline and just delete the reaction down to 0 minus infinity. So there's always some elements that you can use while, if it's a more urgent thing and you're just kind of not sure where to go, that's one thing to do. You either use the triad, or usually, I will just delete the reaction. So anyway, I hope I can find the other article that I wrote on allergies that goes into 2 or 3 good examples, and, things with furs and dust and furs, the more typical things, and mold and things that people run into. But you're still looking for a story, right? You're still looking for a story. The person eating the animal 400 years ago, the dust story might be something to do with an emotion about a living condition 100 years ago that an ancestor had, or 200 years ago, something like that. It reminds them, the dust reminds you of something, and it actually connects with the energy of that ancestor that had that experience, that it's a very negative experience for them. Maybe they lost their whole family or something, and the dust bowl or something like that, as an example. So there's all kinds of ways to, look at the energy and find the story, and find out where it's coming from. Is it coming from the person in their background? Is it coming from their ancestor? A lot of times their ancestors. There's also a collective energy of information you want to delete as well. So that's, I don't like to go step by step with it, because each person is different. So that's why I'm sort of giving you examples, but without a step-by-step approach, because it usually doesn't present itself that way in someone's energy, right? It's you have 4 or 5 things you need to look at, and they may be in different orders, or they may be completely different issues, triggers, or choices. Let's say if it's life problems, triad type of things in a person's energy that may not relate. One person's cat allergy is not another person's cat allergy necessarily, is the easiest way to put it. So you have to always look at the energy, use energetic testing, use profiling, look for the story, clear the cumulative effects of information related to allergies, and just see what happens in the next moment, and see where else you need to go. Profile how much you've deleted. Is it 85% clear? And know where you can go next after that. So that's just basic YUEN method. That's why I got rid of my delete my allergies website, because it didn't make sense to have something different, just specific to allergies, because it's no different than any other thing. You're looking for a story, right? You're looking to find a weakness, you're looking for a story, and you're looking to delete the effects of that story that are creating the emotional reaction that we conventionally would call an allergic reaction. Okay, so I think that's probably enough to talk about today about allergies. I'll try to find the other article. Maybe I'll do a follow-up. So this is working with allergies. So thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and share, or subscribe. Ring the bell if you want to subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you in the next video.